If you're a follower of the channel, you know that I've been selling a ton of statues lately. And many people often ask, well, how do you know how much you should sell a statue for? Now me, I just kind of guess. Probably not the best strategy. Now because statues are pieces of art, and art is subjective, who the hell really knows the value of a statue? So today we're going to talk about 10 things that are objective but immeasurable when it comes to valuing a statue. You know, this should really help because it's not like valuing body parts. Like I know my left nut is way more valuable than my right one. Well, it's because I don't have my right one anymore, but... As the Extreme channel is pushing towards 50,000 subscribers, these are just a few of the statues we are giving away on the journey there. If you want to know how to win one, stay tuned for later in the video. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to the Extreme channel. We are all about extreme collectibles, especially today. We're going to talk about pricing a statue. Now, I'm not going to give you any tips on, oh, this means this statue should be that much, but I'm going to tell you 10 different factors that actually affect the value of these types of statues. And these type of statues typically retail anywhere from $300 all the way up to $4,000 plus. Now in the aftermarket, when you're reselling, that value could be higher or lower depending on a number of the factors we're going to look at today. And if this sounds a little bit familiar, years ago, myself and my co-host, may he rest in peace, Dick Ryder, right here, actually did a segment on this. We're going to revisit some of that. However, it'll be kind of fresh and new, unlike my right nut. All right, so now some of these things are going to be obvious, and I think they're all pretty objective, although they're not really measurable. And you'll understand that as we dive a little bit in. Number 10 is kind of obvious, but the size of a statue. The bigger the statue is, the more it probably costs to make, not just on raw materials, but you add in shipping, and then some other dynamics as well. So this one's pretty obvious, but I only had 9, and I wanted to get the list to 10. Now the rest of them are in increasing order in my opinion, but they could probably be moved around a little bit. Number 9 is actually YouTube reviewers. Yes, YouTube reviewers affect the value on a statue. It is unbelievable how many times I will see either myself or another YouTube reviewer give a bad review, which doesn't happen too often with some other YouTube reviewers, or a great review on a newly released piece and it instantly sells out. So believe it or not, that's kind of a turn on, you know? It's like I have power over you guys. It's sad but true. Some people actually believe what the media says too. But YouTube reviewers or influencers on other social media platforms can definitely affect the value or perceived value of a statue. Number 8 kind of ties into number 10. It's the shipping price, obviously. When you buy a statue, you have to budget, especially nowadays in 2022, what shipping price is going to be. I've paid up over $1,300 for shipping for one statue before. Sometimes the shipping is half as much or as much as the statue. Obviously, that's going to affect the value, not only from a do I want to purchase it in the first place, but I have to think about resale value down the road. Will I get my shipping back? Will whoever I sell it to want to actually pay that much shipping? So shipping price is definitely a factor when it comes to valuing a statue nowadays. 6 and 7 are kind of obvious, but I think they have to be in the list and they kind of tie together. But 6 and 7 are paint and sculpt. Obviously, if it's shitty paint and sculpt, the statue value is a lot lower. If it's done really well, especially like by a professional painter, or the print is flawless on the sculpt, you will see that value skyrocket. Again, kind of obvious, but definitely something that needs to be considered because I've had statues that blow away the paint and sculpt, and I've had statues that just blow when it comes to paint and sculpt. Number 5 is actually what we call hype. This is similar to the YouTube and the influencer thing, except it's done in the local statue community. Whether it's in person or virtually, we mostly see it virtually, whether that's Facebook or forums. It cracks me up when I see people hyping a statue and then selling that same statue. Or maybe they're hyping it up because they get a kickback. Or maybe they're just hyping it up because they want to increase the value of a statue they've already bought. This used to be rampant, and it's still pretty common, to be honest with you. Now, not everyone hyping a statue has ulterior motives. Some people just really like that piece, or they're a little brainwashed. But statue hype and how many people saying it's awesome, or how many people saying it sucks, really can affect that statue. Do you remember in psychology, or it might have been sociology in college, groupthink? Where a large majority of the people start thinking one way, they can get others to think that way as well. And again, another great example of what the media has done to our world. Number 4 is displayability. Let's be honest, these statues take up a lot of room. I have more display area than I would probably say 95% of collectors do. But some people, especially depending on where you live in the world, might have a small room. It could be a 10 by 10 foot room. Or they may not have great display shelving they can install as well. So displayability is definitely a factor. I've definitely seen some of the giant statues that should command a higher price don't, because the buying market is much smaller because a lot of people can't even display that statue. So displayability comes in at number 4. Number 3 is what's going on in pop culture. And if you disagree with me, why do you think Thanos statues were so expensive right when Thanos hit the MCU? Whatever's going on in pop culture, and nowadays cinema or film is a huge portion of that, but there's other stuff going on, new comic book releases, interesting storylines. And I think a good recent example of this is when Moon Knight came out on Disney Plus. By the way, as of filming this, I'm only the 2nd episode in, and I fell asleep both the 1st and 2nd episode. Moon Knight statue prices went through the roof. So whatever is going on in pop culture directly affects the resale or the perceived value of these collectible statues. Now, 2 and 1 are actually oxymorons. Number 2 is the rarity. So we often call this the ES, or the edition size. How many of these did they make? Obviously, if they made 5,000 of them, it may not be as valuable. Although we've seen things like Sideshow's Thanos on Throne that kind of breaks that rule. So like in Pirates of the Caribbean, do you say Caribbean or Caribbean? In that show, it's more of a guideline than a rule that a high ES devalues a statue and a low ES increases it. It happens most of the time, but not all the time. It's just simple economics, simple supply and demand. Which brings us to number 1, which is kind of the flip of that. It's the popularity of a character. I often see people say, why do they make so many Wolverine statues? Why do they make so many Batmans? Why do they make so many Venoms? Because those sell. That's what people want. They don't want one-off characters. They don't want a Pyro from X-Men, even though that would be awesome, and I have one on order. They don't want a Mephisto. So if you take all the other factors we just talked about, then you add in the popularity of the character, which both hype and pop culture can affect. The popularity of a character will most of the times increase the value of a statue, but it could decrease it too. For example, if you're buying a Wolverine statue, you have 2,962 options. But I think that's more the exception. That's why the license companies keep coming out with more Batmans and more Wolverines, simply for the fact they know people will buy them. So that's my list. It's not all inclusive. There's definitely other things in there. For example, I know customs affect the value. Not the customs like the border protection, but whether it's a custom or a license piece. So go ahead and throw in the comments below anything I missed. I think it's a good conversation. I read every single one of your comments, and that way you can enter into this contest. We will be giving all of these statues away, plus additional ones at every 5,000 subscriber milestone. To win one of these statues, all you have to do is make sure you've liked this video, you've subscribed to the channel, you've hit that bell notification, and then just drop a comment below. Every 5,000 subscriber milestone, we are going to do a random drawing and pick a random comment and give one of these statues away, plus some additional ones I'm not showing right now. The more videos you comment on, the higher your chances are to win. Okay, it's not really a contest, it's more of a drawing, but I appreciate you guys watching today. Thanks so much for tuning in. Please drop me a like on the way out. It really helps the channel. Check out some of these other videos, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.